How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Wolf, and welcome back to Path of Exile for another build guide. Now, this is going to be covering my Flame Totem Chieftain that I'm going to be working into an Elemental Hit Chieftain in a couple of days. But I've been having relative success with this build and have been very much so enjoying myself. Now, all of my other builds have generally been rather budget, so for this one I figured, let's spend a little, let's see what we wind up with. As you can see with this chess piece. Now there will be a budget alternative for you guys, so those of you who don't have as much currency as I do, I got lucky of course with a doctor drop and a few exalted drops. But for those of you who don't have any currency, using a tabula will be just fine in place of the setup that I have going right now. But you've seen other Flame Totem builds. What makes mine unique? Well, the fact that I have a Kaom's Heart instead of a 6-link chess piece. Now that is going to sound very, very weird, but allow me a second to explain. A Kaom's Heart, of course, gives you increased fire damage and increased maximum life. With the maximum life, we managed to reach 5k, and going up, I'm only 76. I hope to get this build to about 85 or so. And there is still more in the talent tree for us to get. As a result, we plan to get around 6k-ish life, hopefully, with a little bit more Flame Totem damage. Our Flame Totem sits at 15k DPS, but it doesn't factor in the fact that we're able to drop 3 of them. But the reason for the Kaom's Heart is because I have a God Roll pair of gloves that I was able to barter for. This makes my gloves essentially a 6-link pair of gloves without having to roll for a 6-link. And as a result, I can use a Kaom's Heart for even more damage. These gloves are fingerless silk gloves for increased spell damage. These are extremely niche. These are the only ones available to buy. And since they're, I believe they're, is that shaper? I think they're shaped. They have socketed gems are supported by level 18 slower projectiles, which gives 20% increased projectile damage. And then socketed gems are supported by level 18 faster casting. This gives the totems themselves 10% faster cast speed, so they deal damage faster. Alongside, it has lightning resistance. That's really the notable stat. I would have liked max life on these, but for paying, I think they were at like 2 exalt, and I bartered them down to an exalt, and he took it. So I got rather lucky there. So all in all, this build is worth 3.5 exalt? About 3.5 exalt. So with a little bit of work, it's pretty achievable, and I have cleared a tier 13. Stay tuned for the gameplay video coming tomorrow where you can see this fella start doing some work. Now that being said, let's take a look at the just general gear, and that I've covered the baseline of the build and how we make it work. My wand I was able to grab, which is actually pretty significant, has increased spell damage again. It's got a socketed property, but I don't really care about that. Cast speed, which will affect my my totems again. Burning damage, which doesn't actually come into effect because we're using Elite Focus. And then projectile damage, which is a massive modifier for whatever reason to totems. Now that's the wand. Moving over to the shield, we have Tukohama's Fortress. This is going to be a little bit expensive. I think mine was around 50 chaos in the Flashback League. But this will give you 40% increased totem damage, 300 armor per active totem, can have 1 additional totem summoned at one time, increased max life, and then blood magic. Blood magic is pretty useful and rather integral, considering we stack up so much stuff that the totem becomes 146 mana. If we take the shield off and remove my blood magic node, I think I had maybe 300 mana, something along those lines. But because we take Tukohama's Fortress, we can also take the blood magic set of nodes down here to get, like, what, 35% extra life? So, why not, right? So, that is a ton of HP, as well as you can have an additional totem, which combined with Ancestral Bond means we can have 3 totems. And then, of course, we have my combs for a chest piece. It's been corrupted. No luck with getting anything useful, but I got a 39% combs. Take a look on PoE.trade, because unless it's a 40%, it's generally around the same price as everything else, or just snoop around for a bit of a bargain. trying to get as high as possible because of course 40% is the highest. I got this for 2 exalt, and everything else was listed for 2 exalt as well. My helmet is pretty bread and butter. Life, 2 res, and then int. The int was extremely vital to be able to use my damn wand. I'm just barely there at 234. I was at 212 before I went for my next set of nodes, so I just barely made it. However, what I'm trying to get on my helmet, which is what you're going to need to do, is run a little bit of lab and try and get 40% Flame Totem damage. Now, I looked to buy something with Flame Totem damage, and I didn't find anything in this league that was worth my time or just buyable in the first place. So look around in your league, see if you can find something with 40% Flame Totem damage, or run a lot of labs and try and get it yourself. That's a possibility as well. Now, my necklace, we're using a Kyrie ward. Yes, it's level 5 and it's a little bit weird, but 30% projectile damage and projectile speed ends up doing a ton of damage with your flame totems here. So weird, but it actually works out quite well. And then rings are just going to be stat stick rings. I got lucky and got one with fire damage on it, which was incredible, but resists, max life, more resists, and that's pretty much all rings are good for at the moment. If you can get spell damage or fire damage, go for that. Spell damage scales a lot higher than any of the other things you can get. If you can get elemental damage or things like that, go for preferably spell damage or damage to spells. If you can get both, you're in the money. But that is what my rings generally are. And my boots, I don't have a good roll on these either for lab. Because we can't do ignites because we have LE focus in the gloves. But this is pretty self-explanatory as well. Movement speed, lightning resist, fire resist, max life. It's pretty basic. And opting for a better lab craft. I don't exactly know what to get on boots just yet, but a little bit more playing around and hopefully I can get something decent. My belt is a corrupted Doriani's. This is for fire. Gives me 29% fire damage, 2% fire, or 0.2% fire leech, and then the corruption is increased dex and increased int, which allowed me to be able to equip my wand in the first place, and it's just all around pretty exceptional because it is a 29% fire damage roll out of 30, which is perfect. This wasn't even that expensive either, which is pretty damn nice. Now, in my second slot, you can see I have a bright beak here. This is just for leap slamming to make my life a lot easier. So yeah, I just switched to that, leap slime around, and that's pretty much the basics of why I have that set up. You can also use shield charge. I probably should use shield charge, but I like being able to leap up things and do that sort of thing. So either is viable, or even whirling blades. Probably even whirling blades. Now links wise, you can see I don't really have much. The gloves are the main links. I haven't really experimented too much or worried about most things because you can't really use auras unless you want to limit off your health, which is kind of annoying, but that's just how it is with blood magic. So I'm not too sure what else I should be taking or using in links. I'll have to look around a little bit, but I've been going for Flame Totem, Controlled Destruction for a ton of spell damage, but of course you can't crit. LE Focus for a ton of elemental damage, and Fire Pen because it simmed higher than Empower, which we simmed on this as well. And that was my other link, I believe. So we did a little bit of simming, me and Keith, on the stream the other day, and he simmed that Fire Pen did more damage. So here we are with Fire Pen. If you're using a 6 link, we had Flame Totem, Controlled Destruction, LE Focus, Fire Pen, Empower, and I think Iron Will. I think it was Iron Will. It was either Iron Will or Minion and Totem Elemental Resist or something, because it simmed higher. But I think that was the setup we had for the 6th link. So if you're using like a tab, for example, that is what we would go for. You can also use a volley if you want faster map clearing, but when you come across a boss, if you're using volley, don't expect to be able to kill him all that fast. That's more of the speed mapping variant. And I'm contemplating switching the Fire Pen to a volley and just speeding through tier 8s. Just try and get my level up a little bit faster. But I'm not in the mood to try and re-roll all these colors because getting 2 red on an offset pair of gloves is, or on a straight int pair of gloves. It's not easy, but we managed it. We managed it. But yeah, you can see the rest of my sockets are a little bit empty. I have Enduring Cry with increased duration support. This is where a ton of survivability is going to come from. I'm just going to give you endurance charges or extra endurance charges and a ton of life regeneration. So that has proven me very well and has kept me alive through a lot of situations I didn't think I would live through. Especially combined with my flasks. I have a catalyst, or is it catalyst or catalyzed? Catalyzed Divine Flask of Curing. This gives me a lot of health very quickly. It's also 20 qualled, and it's a poison removal flask. Alongside, I have a Panicked Dousing Flask, which is incredible, also 20%ed. This has saved me pretty recently and quite a lot. So these two are almost a necessity, if I'm honest. And then I have 2 Quicksilvers that are Experimenters, Quicksilver of Staunching, which are incredible. They remove my corrupted blood just without me having to even think. And they also have increased duration, and they're also 20 qual. Now, one thing I will teach you is with qualling Quicksilvers, there's no point in getting them past like 13 when you're using Experimenters, because it seems like 6 seconds is the max it can go to, even with 20 qual and duration, because notice this one's 20 quality and 30%. This one's 15 quality and 36%. That was capped at like 13. I went up even higher to see what happened, and it didn't end up going any higher. So 6 seconds is like the highest you can get with a Quicksilver there. Now, I'm still not sure if Granite is better than Basalt Flask, or if there's something I should use here instead. Like, I don't know, if there's any other unique flasks or anything that could prove worthwhile, maybe. If I had more experience in items, maybe I could pick something out. But I've had success with a freeze removal Granite Flask, because of course, if you notice, this covers everything. I have burning removal, poison removal, bleed, and then freeze removal. So it makes my life extremely easy, because I rolled around without having a burning flask, and every time I would get ignited or start burning, my health bar would start disappearing rapidly, and it would not be great. But that being said, that's going to bring us to the end of the gearing section. The Bandits, I went for a Lyra while leveling to solve my mana problems. And then once I started getting into blood magic with my fortress at 61, I switched to Aramir. For those of you who don't know how to do it, if you trade a 20 stack of regret orbs and an onyx amulet, you can get an Aramir's favor book that will give you 2 passive skill points. So we end up going Aramir in the end, but I like Lyra to solve my mana problems. Pantheons wise, I'm using Brine King just to mitigate the fact I could get stun chained, and I don't like dying to stupid shit, so this helps me out in that department. Now miners, I'm not really sure just yet. I'm rolling with Grithcall just because I don't really have much else. I mean, Shikari would probably be a good idea, and just upgrade it to be immune to poison would be a pretty decent idea. Rice Latha, is that the name, way I say that? That's pretty good too. That would be pretty good too. Chance to avoid bleeding, always quite nice. You're not actually stationary with this build most times, so yeah, I mean, you can choose whichever one you want for the small one. I've been going for Growth Call, but honestly, I feel like the chaos damage one here, and those poison clouds can be pretty devastating if you don't realize that they're there. So 25% reduction on the poison cloud would be quite nice. So that is the Pantheons that I'm going for. Now we open the passive tree, and things get a little bit interesting, because we go up and we go down. For the reason of, we need int, we need blood magic. Well, we don't need blood magic, but I like the extra life. And up here we get damage and ancestral bond. So we're going to start off with the start of Marauder. I'm going to come down through all the life. Alternatively, if you don't care much about getting high amounts of life, you can come out the top here to save a few points, but I don't recommend it. I recommend going for all the health you can. So come down through here, grab the life, grab Golem's blood. Go up here to get the int. As you heard me say, it's a little bit required because I didn't get enough on gear. So grabbing int here is exceptional. grab the life, come all the way up, come up here, and then to start, go up here, around, get the totem damage, come up, get the jewel socket. We put Rain of Splinters in here, go for a low roll, reduced totem damage. I have 33 as opposed to 30, which is about as close as I could get without going really high priced. So you want to try and get that to make your clear speed a little bit better. It is quite nice. If you get like a 50%, just throw it away. Try and get that as low as possible. More damage, the better. And you want to come over here. You can grab Ancestral Knowledge. You can pop down, grab your Arsonist node, and then, yeah, I could, in theory, get rid of this Strength node right here and get an extra skill point. You know what? I don't have any refunds left. Ah, the struggle. I have to remember that. But you can come down here. We grab Barbarism right here. Come in here, get the extra Endurance charge, because of course we're using Enduring Cry, right? So then you want to come down here, grab Juggernaut for max life armor, come out, and then you can come down. And I waited on Blood Magic until I hit 61 to put the Fortress on, because I didn't want to kill myself and I didn't have enough health regeneration, and I wanted to use my auras and Herald of Ash while speed leveling with Sunder and Brightbeak. So I didn't take Blood Magic while leveling until I hit the kind of end point. Now you can grab the totem set up here, grab that. Once you hit 61, of course, grab Blood Magic on these nodes. Come down, you have more life here. Come down here, come up here, grab the int. You need that to put my wand on. If you're using a lower int wand, you may not need to come down and spend those extra 3 points. Now, moving back up here, we go starting to come straight up from here. Grab this node because it's required to get into these ones. You have life here. You have dexterity here. I wish this was dex int, but it's not, so you don't need that. But grab the max life here. Come up here. Grab retribution for spell damage. You can come in, grab this spell damage here as well. This is the second path, or this is the path I just started going up. So you can see me starting to go up for totem damage, and I'm going to grab those two. But after you grab this, you want to come left. LE damage, bit of extra resists and LE damage. And then you can come up here, grab the spell damage here. I can take this node out too, actually. I need to do a little bit of skill tree organization, but that's just how it goes sometimes. We come down here, grab the endurance charge, and grab devotion here. You could even go through here, take out that strength node there, but not like it would really make much of a difference. Come up here, go in, get the LE damage, fire damage, and elemental damage here. I'm not too sure this set of nodes is actually worth much, because I remember I took the 6% LE damage, and it didn't really do anything to my DPS. So I'm not sure if this last node is all that useful, but the extra fire pen combined with the gem is a really nice combo, giving me like, what, 40-ish% penetration? Yeah, like 39% fire pen, which is exceptional. And then fire damage scales quite well. We come up and we grab Ancestral Bond. So there is a little bit of skill tree cleanup that I need to do, but that is how it goes. I can get 2 extra skill points and wind up with Shamanistic Fury, which will be exceptional because the next set of nodes I believe I'm going to get will be either Tireless, come up here and get these, which is probably what I'm going to do next, or start coming over to the Scion cluster and getting all this life here. And that's the next set of nodes, is either that life or this life. I was originally going to just go straight for those, and then I was like, oh shit, there's extra totem damage up here. We should go and grab that. So, as you can see, I'm working my way over there, grabbing that. And then into Chieftain, our last spot. I originally went up here first, and I realized this was good, but I wanted to get that last. I didn't know which one was worth more, so I came up here to get Forced Strength, which gives me life regen per second per endurance charge, makes me nice and tanky. When you or your totems kill a burning enemy, 20% chance for you and your totems to gain an endurance charge. Now, because we have LE Focus, if I hit the right button, because we have LE Focus, we can't inflict elemental ailments, so we don't burn. This actually simmed higher than taking it off and using something else, and having burning. I know, it's weird, don't ask me. So, because of that, you don't get endurance charges from your totems, so you have to have Enduring Cry to get extra endurance, or to get your endurance charges. but you get 6% fire damage per charge. So your damage starts to scale exponentially with however many endurance charges you have. So I might be getting some gear that gives me more endurance charges, because I just realized that could be exponential damage scaling. That could be interesting if you could fit something else in the build somewhere. And then we come up here to get Nagami's Flame Advance, 10% Fire Pen. I don't think the steroid affects all that much. I don't think it counts. But grabbing this node is exceptional, because 1% of damage dealt by your totems is leeched to you, 10% strength, 1% fire damage leeched as life, and chance to cover unique enemies in Ash for 10 seconds on hit. I don't think that is stopped by LE Focus, but I'm not entirely sure. And the last node, I'm going to get the this node right here for the totem damage. You could get this node if you don't like being ignited and you want more survivability and resistances. You could grab that one, but I'm going to grab this one. Now this node I don't really care about much, because 20% chance to taunt on hit. I don't want them dying more than they already do. The totems do die rather quickly, so I will be teaching you a few tactics when it comes to totem placement and how to make them work a little better. It's not exactly a mindless build, especially on like tier 13 bosses, which we're going to do, and I'm going to show you how to do, but they require a little bit of effort when it comes to higher tier bosses and some stupid mechanic enemies. So it's going to require what I like to call the pyramid strat, which is placing 3 totems in a triangle. Well, not so much the pyramid strat, but like a triangle type of totem strat, because then it just gets them in the crossfire when they're in the center, and the boss dies rather rapidly. They can't just cleave them all down like if they were stacked up like that. I used to do that to make a wall, and then they would all get sweeps and just die, and it was like, oh well, I'm a little bit retarded. But I do believe I covered everything in the build. My boots links are cast when damage taken, stone golem, and then leap slam. I think I missed covering that. It's not set up to let me use cast while damage taken leap slam yet, or cast while damage taken stone golem can't be used yet, because I didn't read how casting damage taken works. So you have to level it up more for it to be able to actually affect my stone golem, because it says this gem can only affect skill gems at level 58 or lower. I didn't read that part. I just thought it would work no matter what. But this skill gem is level 66, so it's going to take a little bit more leveling to get my cast and damage taken to work with Stone Golem, because Stone Golem dies a lot. You can switch Stone Golem out for Fire Golem at higher tiers, and I might end up actually doing that depending on how things go. But that's going to be all from me. Hope you guys did enjoy, and we're going to be running some tier 12s tomorrow in tomorrow's video. But if you don't want to wait till tomorrow to see how this build performs, you can pop into the stream, which will be going on as this goes live or after this goes live. So you can see me playing this build and hopefully enjoying myself. But that is going to be all from me. And as always, take care, lads. So heaven, if you sent us down.